Friends and enemies, welcome back to the Canadian Bitcoiners podcast. This is number, what did I write in the title? 212, which is, by my math, something like 35 in billion, less than Mark Carney is planning to add to the national deficit. My name is Joey. That is Len. Did you watch a game last night? Hey, did you catch the game last night?
No, I didn't. Who won?
Leafs won 6-2.
Okay.
Yeah, good start for the Make Me Laughs.
Okay, good for them.
Yeah.
I know they're playing the Senators, but I had no idea what the score is.
How you been?
What can I say? Weather shit, right? Like,
I just took my dog for a walk. It's like 16, 17 degrees over here.
It's stopped raining though.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's whatever. It is what it is. It's another great day in Southern Ontario. Look, I like this currency, the one Singapore dollar. That's the one we got to adopt, right? The Singapore dollar. Like, look at this beauty.
It's amazing that you've managed to hold this up upside down, not once, but twice on both sides. People are not getting the...
Oh. There you go.
There we go. Looks great. Thanks to friend of the show, Dan Wedge, for that banger.
Did you know that Mark Carney's signature is on the $20 bill?
Yeah, we've talked about that.
We have? Okay.
Yeah.
And is he on...
When he was talking about... Oh, I don't know if he's on others, but we were talking about when he first started claiming he was not an insider. And I said, how many insiders do you know that have their autograph on the 20? I doubt that's a big number. I think that's probably it's two separate circles Venn diagram, if I had to guess. I don't know what you think, but that's my guess for sure.
He's just a common Joe, a common Mark. And yeah, well, whatever. It's working for him because it looks like there's a lot of people going out to vote.
Yeah,
for him and for the other guy as well. So whatever they're doing, they're drumming up a lot of interest. And today's the last day that you could do the advanced voting. So if you
did you go yet?
Done so? No.
Yeah, I'm gonna go next Monday, I guess. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about all that. We have a lot to discuss tonight. Let's talk about the sponsors first, then we'll do a little housekeeping and boost. As always, EasyDNS, the best place for you to register your domain. Mark is your friendly neighborhood domain registrar. We've used him for websites that we've bought at EasyDNS or register with EasyDNS. We've used him for websites that we've had given to us, that we've moved over from other places, and you guys should be doing the same. No matter what you're doing, you need a website these days. And there's no better place to do this than with Mark. For a couple extra bucks, you get the Domain Sure Security Suite, which we talk about every week on Access of Easy, a podcast you guys should be listening to, because more and more we're talking about things there that we then end up talking about here months later in the Bitcoin space related to cybersecurity. But Domain Sure, make sure you don't get nabbed by some nefarious actor. We talk all the time about data being stolen, websites and emails being spoofed. And obviously on this show, we discussed, Coinbase having these problems over the years. They wouldn't happen if EasyDNS was their registrar.
The best one I've seen, I don't mean to cut you off. The best one I saw, there was a website that came out and it was my private keys safe or something like that.
Stop. And people put in their keys.
Somebody, I don't know if anybody has done that, but I found it to be absolutely brilliant. If you're going to be preying on people that just don't know and are trusting, it's something along those lines. Maybe I got the wording incorrect, but you get the gist of it.
Yes.
And I guess anybody that submits their information on there, they're in for a lot of tough times ahead.
Yeah. But
I wonder, does it find out if it's Bitcoin or not Bitcoin? Because
I don't know.
And I don't know how you can figure that stuff out.
I mean, there's probably some script running that does it pretty easily. But if you use Mark, you don't have to worry about that. And then obviously, if you're a Bitcoiner, I mean, you can do anything over there with the virtual private server options. You can run a Bitcoin node, Nostr relay. You want to do BTC Pay server for yourself or your website. It's all you, man. Not to mention that they have pretty easy WordPress extensions and other things you can use to share data, blog posts. No market wrap from CBP this week, but next week we'll get back at it once things slow down here in the family realm. Go over to EasyDNS, use the code CBP Media. You get 50% off your first round of buys. Pretty good. That's not a bad deal, I would say. Who's the other sponsor?
It's Bull Bitcoin, but you're going to have to help me out for this because I'm not sure exactly I understand this. So I don't even know what the price is of Bitcoin. It went up from what I heard today.
Call it 86 or 87. I don't know.
All right. That sounds good. If you like it and you want to buy, a good place to buy is from Bull Bitcoin. If you like it and want to sell, a good place to sell is with Bull Bitcoin. On-chain, Lightning, you have your different options there. Last I checked, on-chain is still rather cheap, although I didn't check before Sunday, so I don't know if things have changed in the last day or so. Either way, on-chain is the way to go, at least for the time being. But it's not just simply buying or selling Bitcoin. There's other things you could do with it, right? It's Bitcoin, you could be using it as a medium of exchange one of two ways. You can start paying your bills with that. Use the Bold Bitcoin bill service to do that. You got an outstanding car payment, outstanding credit card payment. You could use your Bitcoin to pay that. Might as well. Bitcoin sitting at 86, 87K. Good time to do that. Another thing you could do with your Bitcoin, you could start spending that indirectly in the real world by buying gift cards through Bold Bitcoin. And that way you can start spending your Bitcoin when you go to, say, Home Depot or Starbucks or whatever, because they're not going to take your Bitcoin direct. But with a gift card that you purchase with your Bitcoin, well, that's one way you can start spending your Bitcoin in the real world. Use our promo code below and you'll get, Joey?
You get 25% off your fees. So instead of just $21 once, you get a quarter of the fees, refunded or not charged, which is pretty good. Bull Bitcoin already has super low fees. So for them to do this, if you're a frequent buyer, I mean, I know you guys are buying frequently. I can tell by the volume. This is going to be worth a lot more to you than the $21. So I'm pretty hyped about this. I didn't know this. Guillaume told us this last week after the show. And I don't know when that change happened, but it's a lot better, honestly. Just when you thought these guys couldn't do anything more for you, here they go. Adding,
if you're going to be a frequent buyer,
yeah,
this is going to add up in the long run to be, especially if you're doing large dollar purchases.
It won't even take that long. It's like if you buy $500 every month, you're going to get more than $21 back in 2 months, 3 months, something like that. If I had to guess, I don't know exactly how long, but yeah, you're gonna be doing pretty well for sure.
And the good thing about them, talking about Bull Bitcoin, is they're not custodial. There's so many exchanges out there that are, and you can't complete a buy through Bull Bitcoin without providing a Bitcoin address. It may not be a correct one. It's up to you to provide that, but you have to provide a Bitcoin address. So they don't hold on to your Bitcoin. That is really what you want from an exchange. You don't want to give them an opportunity to rug you, and Bull Bitcoin will not rug you because, well, they don't have any Bitcoin to rug you with. So I like that.
It's great. Let's do some boosts, then we'll move on to housekeeping.
All right, Wartime. 333 sats. Did a bunch of sats this week. And he says, sorry for my hieroglyphs. It's my way of being lazy and saying hello. And he says the thing is not a firecracker, it's a dynamite. So I said to his couple of firecrackers, no, it's dynamite. So yeah, there you go.
Great.
He also writes in for another 333 sats. There are still good women out there. Just snagged one. Alas, I did not get a girlfriend this cycle. Moved her straight to wifey. Congratulations.
Congrats. So, yeah. Where's the, I don't know, like, have you looked in the mail for your wedding invite, Len? I haven't seen mine. Maybe it got lost or the strike is still delaying it, maybe?
That's a good Wartime. What are you doing, buddy?
We got to figure that out. I'm surprised I haven't seen it yet. Yeah, interesting. For a guy who talks to us every week, like I don't talk to all my friends every week. This guy talks to me more than some of my friends, so I'm surprised I'm not. I mean, you can even throw me at the table closest to the bar. Like I'm not going to be offended.
I'm not going. I don't leave the video. Actually, I will. Fuck that. I'm going. Joey Mo BTC Dick 500 sats. He says tariffs, globalism failing, the money printer. It's all noise. Stack sats. And totally. You know what? He's 100% right. Really, the thing I go off these days, if I have more sats today than I had yesterday, I'm happy. It doesn't have to be a lot, even just a little bit. I am very happy. As for the price, as for this and that, I'm trying to shut it out because a lot of this I can't control, right? It's going to happen regardless if I worry about it, think about it, do anything. Yeah. So I just do my thing, control what I can, which is my stack of Bitcoin. And yeah, I try to increase that. So he's right.
Totally agree. These days, especially, like we'll talk a bit today about some of the mayhem and madness and like the liberal platform, among other things. And it's another reason to just ignore. I hate to say ignore politics because it will not ignore you, as the saying goes. But you have ways to make yourself more agile and more difficult to corral. And Bitcoin really is like, if not the top of the list, it's very close. So I think you should be thinking about your Bitcoin stash. Yeah, more than ever, I would say today than ever before.
And he writes in another one, well, BTC Dick does 500 sats again. What are your guys' thoughts on strategy, formerly known as MicroStrategy, needing to sell in 2026 possibly? I've always been wary of Sailor's plan, but I worried he could be the black swan that sparks the next bear market. He ain't selling.
He doesn't have to sell because the shares, like the debt is convertible. So
he didn't sell when it went to 15K. Why would he
Yeah.
sell at
Well,
2026?
because he's bought a lot above 75 and 80, right? And so there's people out there, I haven't vetted any of this, but there's people out there who say at 60 he starts to sweat a little bit. At 50 he's sweating a lot more. I think it's actually the number's a lot lower than that.
There is no number. The number is he starts sweating is when he can't raise any more money.
Here's the thing, right? The Bitcoin price is that number. Those numbers are one and the same. And so on paper, they may not be one and the same, but for the people who are buying that debt, those numbers are one and the same.
If he starts
selling,
number,
I don't know.
What happens to the price of Bitcoin?
I mean, he's got enough to move the market like big time. And not even that. Like the thing is that the sentiment will be what moves the market. He won't dump everything at once, even if he runs like a very obscure and discreet selling operation.
It will tank.
As soon as someone gets wind, that's going to be a big drop in the price for sure, like 50%, 40% if I had to guess.
So it's really the price of Bitcoin does have something. Really, for me, it's 100% tied to how much money you could get. If you could dilute, if you could borrow, as long as he's able to do those two things and maybe some other things as well, to just somehow raise more money, the amount he has doesn't really matter. The amount of Bitcoin he has, 2026 possibilities, so all this shit doesn't matter. He's committed to continually stack away, and he has a plan to just dilute, I guess.
Yeah.
Borrow as much as possible.
Sell pictures of his feet. Maybe sell that nice boat he's got behind him and all those videos. I don't know. Or that fractal encrypt artwork he's got too. Yeah, I don't know. You know what? Don't worry about Saylor. He's, I think, more likely a government operative than not. So you don't think so? I think he might be. That's my opinion anyway. So you nod your head or shake your head, but
no. Wartime also writes in at 3,333 sats. He loves his threes. And he says, with respect to how can you start living a unhypnotized life with True Heather? He said, it needs a part 2. Great conversation.
It was good. Maybe if we're done with the boost, we'll move to housekeeping here.
Yeah, we are.
I felt vindicated talking to Heather because in our Discord, I've been like talking to you guys and trying to tackle like this, what seems to be like a StreamYard audio problem with good microphones. And Heather came on and had a good mic, has a podcast. I've listened to her podcast. The audio is good. I listen to when I do like the quick currents and some of the interviews, and Len and I, like the audio is good, but there's a problem with leveling between two mics. And I went to the StreamYard help page the other day, and they have this new section for quality microphones and audio equipment that they did not have before. And so that tells me that sometime in the last few months, they've realized that not everyone is using a Logitech webcam and a laptop mic, and that people actually paid, a couple $100 for a mic and some headphones. And some of the stuff they were doing on the, I would guess on the rendering side or like the audio quality side, you were really swimming upstream if you had that equipment before. In Heather's show, I think that she probably has a cloud lifter to go with that SM7B mic and maybe some audio interface on her computer to make things sound a certain way. But we got into trouble when the echo cancellation on her end turned off and her levels dropped off a cliff. Then we got into trouble again when she put on headphones, AirPods that were wireless. Like I have these AirPod Max headphones. And when you put them with your computer, when you pair them, your computer picks up the mic too. So on the video side, there was a lot of feedback. It's not unlistenable, but it's not a good experience. So I want to apologize for that. On the audio side, I spent a lot of time cleaning up the audio and getting rid of all the echo that I could. I think it sounds really quality, and I think it's more than listenable. It's not quite up to the standard that we would normally release, but it's there now. And, as you can see, Len, I gave Len a mic that we bought for the show a few years ago. I replaced it with this mic. And so now we're both operating on a similar plane.
I got the hand-me-downs, baby.
Well, that's a good mic too. Like that's a $300 mic, and this one's both $350. Well, because when we started buying stuff for the show, I thought I want this to sound professional, and it was easier then because StreamYard wasn't doing all this digital work on the audio, right? And so now they are, and we've been sending our guests now a link to that help page and saying you got to follow these instructions. So from here on out, shouldn't have that problem. The audio should be level between Len and I now. I expect that it's going to sound good in post, and everything should be fine. Other housekeeping. I was on Pleb Underground last week on Friday. Had a blast with Phil. He did our show a couple weeks back. I want to bring him and Sir Ulrich on to talk about more stuff in Bitcoin. Those guys are a lot of fun. I think that we're aligned on the mission and the message in a lot of ways. And like I said before, trying not to do stuff that's dumb, trying not to do stuff that's clickbaity. And then I see Millennial Moron in the chat. Brother, what's up? He's going to be coming on in 2 weeks to talk about presumably the election outcome as well as some other stuff. I mean, there's a lot to discuss in Canada these days, whether it's housing. I do want to talk about pensions a bit. I do want to talk about some Canadian equity stuff compared to the USA, and maybe just some of the fallout from the data that's becoming, I think, more mainstream, thanks to guys like Richard Diaz, obviously friend of the show, and Dicker and the Looney Hour guys, sharing all the time. Like, don't talk to me about vibes. Talk to me about gross fixed capital formation. Talk to me about talk to me about GDP per capita. Talk to me about the OECD ranking for all our economic data. Like, don't talk to me about, again, Minister Freeland today tweeting we're the best economy in the G7. It's just so obviously not true. And that data is, if the data is so poorly understood and so poorly recorded that we can spin that, then the data is not worth collecting and reporting on. And so I'm looking forward to talking to him. And then this week, Tuan is coming on to talk mining, I guess.
Yeah, home mining and the way to heat your home with that. It's not simply just putting a miner in one room and having that just provide ambient or increasing the ambient temperature there. It's using the central air in your house to do it. So it's quite a interesting setup. And I got a briefing from him last week about it, and the way it's driven, it's really cool how it's done. And we'll go into a deep dive into this, the likelihood that people would want it, how likely, like if it's worthwhile to actually install it in your house.
Right.
And because let's be honest, electricity is not cheap here in Ontario, but if you're heating your home and you have central air, then this might be one way to just maybe take a little bit of the load off your furnace and earn some sats at the same time.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll
Very
get some
cool
numbers to see what you could earn and given today's hash rate so forth. So
I'm looking forward
tomorrow.
to that.
I'm chatting with him tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow, not Wednesday. Okay, great.
Yeah.
I want to note here. So one more episode programming note. Next week, very exciting, election night special. Me, Len, Tom Karadza, Mark Jeftovic, Francis, and none other than Boomer in the chat. Booking agent slash friend of the show, friend of Len and I. I'm really looking forward to that episode. It's going to start at about 8 o'clock. Don't quote me on that time. If we decide to start a bit earlier, a bit later, don't be mad. And we're going to go until, what do you think, 9:15, 9:30, something like that?
Whenever we feel we're ready to.
Yeah.
I don't want to give a hard time. I want to just go based on the vibe. You know, if we're running out of steam, if the chat's dying down, let's get the fuck out.
Agreed. Last comment here. I know this is long housekeeping. Every week there are like a few hundred people watching this show live. I don't know how many are on YouTube because I don't look at the YouTube stream. But if you are on Twitter and want to participate in the live chat, I implore you, go to YouTube. If you are on Twitch and want to participate in the live chat, I implore you, go to YouTube. It's not just so I can type back to you. It's so that you can talk to other people instead of just sending your comments into the ether for me to look at, not be able to type back to. I might interrupt the flow of the show if I respond. I might not.
What the fuck is with this ETH talk?
I know. Sorry. I didn't mean
Is
to
this
say that.
bankless time already?
I didn't mean to say that. But that's the point I'm making. Len, one other thing. I never do this on this show. My football conditioning and review channel has surpassed 80,000 plays and is now like the third month in a row of 5-figure plays in the month. Nice. I am very excited about that. Very excited. For a channel that started with me just reviewing footballs that I thought were easy to throw as a quarterback compared to others, I am pumped about that. So I just want to thank people who have been visiting me over there too. It's a different vibe, I have to say. But it's a lot of fun. I enjoy making those videos, so thank you.
Want to dive right in because
let's hit it, man. Yeah, let's hit it.
Very long intro. The Bitcoin Core, we'll talk about that right off the bat because this came out. Version 29.0 was released in the past 7 days. And with that, now that makes Bitcoin Core version 26 and all derivatives of that reach its end of life, because if you look at the maintenance schedule for that, it's no longer going to be receiving any critical updates. So anybody that's running version 26 or older, beware, because if there are any critical updates that should be applied or people are aware that are going to impact those, you should update your software to something more current, at least version 27 or newer, or maybe even as an alternative, do Bitcoin knots. And it's certainly it's an option. It's good to have these options out there. And with respect to version 29 and the goodies it may contain, it's nothing groundbreaking. There's some network improvements that are in there. The replace by fee is now standard. The option was enabled in version 28.
That is big. I think that is a big development.
Well, it was already in 28, so it's now standard in 29. So people like Peter Todd, I think, are going to be very happy about this recent. Well,
are you not happy? You're not happy with that? You don't like that change?
It's good. It's good to have it.
RBF, it's great. RBF is important. I think it's a nice new feature.
But you could have always enabled it, right?
I know, but it's like, now it's part of the the landscape. Wow. It's in the picture now at all times.
I like having options, to be honest. That's me, and I like, if I want to enable it, I can. If I want to not enable it, I don't need to. Just, I'd prefer to have that type of. But either way, DB cache is now, the limit used to be 16 GB. That is now eliminated in totality. That's because computers have a lot more resources available to them, and also the recent UTXO growth set has basically forced the core developers to eliminate the DB cache limit. And the compiling process has changed, and it's now migrated from AutoTools to CMake. And AutoTools is a legacy configuration used for portability, and CMake is a newer kind of things. It's a new kid on the block, and it's better for cross-platform. And not sure how many people here compile their own version of Core. I'll raise hands for anybody that does. I do. I'm probably one of the few that do that. A CMake, you need version 3.22 or higher in order to compile it. So there we go. If you are a Core runner, update your Core. If you're running 26 or older, just my 2 cents.
What do you want to see in a version of Core that's not there now?
I don't know.
These are updated. Nothing. These are updated so infrequently, and I am surprised. Yeah, I'm surprised that you're not a little more excited about this, because it seems like the feedback on Twitter is that this is a really nice update and a little more than what we're used to getting from the Core dev team on Core.
What is the big one here? And there's some networking improvement.
I think about like invisible plain sight. It's RBF. The networking stuff, I don't know. The 16 gig limit, I guess, makes sense. I don't know why it took so long to remove that, though. What do you think? I don't know. You tell me.
RBF is nice, but it was, again,
that's a flagship change. That is a flagship change.
It was there in 28, so like it's not like it wasn't there. It's now just standard part of the software right now. So you had the option previously to enable it or not. Good, great. I don't know.
What do you want to see then? You tell me what you want to see.
To be honest, just if anything, I want stability, and I want any critical things to be fixed. That's the big thing. In terms of changes to Bitcoin, what do we need right now in terms of changes to Bitcoin?
I don't think much, honestly.
I am part of,
I would like to see, what I would like to see, and actually Wilhelm in the chat is talking about the CoinKite teleport feature. I would like to see something that makes wallet transport, I dare I say, easier than memorizing 12 words. There's not many things easier than that, but I'd be curious if there's a way to innovate on that front, given that people are looking to be more agile in the face of increasingly difficult tax laws in the modern world. I think a lot of Bitcoiners are going to be running up against that in the next 5 years, 10 years. So I'm curious if there's innovations to be made there, but otherwise, yeah, I'm not really sure where I want Core to go next.
There's a border wallet, I think, that's been enabled in Sparrow, where you could just memorize a particular pattern.
Yeah, and you need a file to go with it, though. You need a file to go with it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Border Wallet. You're talking about Border Wallet and Sparrow. Still really good, but it's not a perfect solution. I hate that I'm even saying that, because obviously I've contributed exactly zero to wallet technology. But interesting stuff all the same. Do you want to talk about the cold card teleport thing a little bit?
I won't talk about teleport. I'll talk about the co-signing, because the teleport, I'm still wrapping my head around it. And to be honest, it's a feature, from what I gather, I'm not going to use at all. But either way, the co-signing thing, it's now available on the Mark IV if you are using firmware 5.4.2. and also on the Q version, firmware version 1.3.2Q. So if you're using any of those or newer, you get access to something called a cold card co-signing. And when this is enabled, a second seed is then added to your cold card, and this is known as a spending policy. And the new seed is used along the main seed of the device, and it's kind of creating a 2 of N multi-sig wallet.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, you could put on some spending policies. So rather than having a wallet where you could drain it in totality without any barriers whatsoever, you could put some rules, some spending rules in this to protect your funds and also give you a little bit more flexibility moving forward. So you could put limits on how much Bitcoin can be spent in a single transaction. You could also restrict how much Bitcoin, how fast Bitcoin can be sent, requiring a minimum number of blocks to be built between transactions. You could also whitelist where you are going to be sending Bitcoin. This is sounding a little bit like CTV in a way.
Yeah.
So it's giving you the ability to whitelist addresses where you could send it. And there's also 2FA where you could use mobile 2FA for authentication. So this is something I find to be rather fascinating. I haven't yet dove deep into it, but if you are concerned about your stack and you want to provide a little bit more security, rather than using something like Liana and time locking it, you could use something like this. This is another alternative. Again, options are good. Let's have as many options available so the consumer, the end user, you and I, and everybody listening and watching can make a decision what works best for them. The key teleport stuff, I'm not too up to date with that, so I can't speak on it, unless you have some information you want to share.
I'm going to share. I'll share the website. I think this is pretty interesting, only because it. I don't want to speak ill of MVK and the team there because I don't know enough about this either yet. But this is interesting. So it's basically cloning a cold card via anything from a Zoom call to a video call of some kind. So if you ever want to leave the country and have your Bitcoin available to you when you get to the other place, or like someone stays behind and then you can send the Bitcoin this way, it's neat. But this, I think, really flies in the face of your mission against connectivity in a lot of ways, right? Like you don't want to be sharing anything related to your key, your wallet, your device over a digital medium. I don't know how secure this is or isn't because I don't know enough about it yet, but I want to see Ben do a video on this and find out what he thinks about it, because really that's the guy to ask. And he's not afraid to point out some of the issues or errors. We could also just ask D to come on the show. I never even thought about calling him. But maybe we'll bring him on in the next little while to talk about some of these new features and do a rundown. He also does videos for the CoinKite YouTube page. So, one of these guys will have a video soon and we can see this in action. I think as you mentioned, options, great. I just don't want to be sacrificing security for ease, right? And so, I mentioned earlier that I want to see some innovation on the wallet side. This is exactly what I'm talking about, the teleport. I just don't know how well this can be secured. I need to know more about this file, right? Like
it's encrypted though. That's one thing I'm
but like
encrypted
is just another word for trusting someone to encrypt for you, right? Is that,
Well, there are, I don't want to speak specifically on this, and I don't know what type of encryption methodology it uses, but there's a lot that are open source and it's been tried, tested, and true. So to say encrypted, there could be some backdoor to it, or there's a trust. I mean, it's software, and you could analyze the code and you can see Bitcoin itself. We have SHA-256, for example, right? And so if there's any sort of potential to crack it, it's just going to pivot and make it more secure, just like any of these encryption programs. So I don't know. So I can't speak too much. We should enable D to come on. That'd be pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, I'll have to give him a call.
Because there's been a lot of it in his life that's changed too, and it'd be good to catch up on that as well. Firmware with Bitmain. I'm not sure if you saw this. Bitmain had some firmware updates with their S21 Pluses. That's very powerful machines. And there's some shenanigans going on with these firmware updates. A guy by the name of Sin Jenko. I think that's whatever. Either way, this guy's on Twitter. I pronounce his name, probably butchered. I don't give a fuck.
Sorry, buddy.
He's saying if you update your firmware on your S21 Plus to the latest firmware, you're going to have difficulties connecting to Ocean mining pool. Why? Seems very odd. Like, why would Bitmain limit the ability to connect to ocean mining? I mean, this could be a long-standing issue from the block size war between Jihan Wu and Luke Dashir, right? I mean, they were on different sides of the fence here when it came to which side they wanted to go. Either way, this applies to the firmware dated March 14th, 2025. So if you have that particular firmware on your S21 Plus, you're not going to have any ability to connect to the ocean mining pool. Instead, you have to use firmware February 7th, 2025. That's the alternative you could use for your ASIC, and then that will enable you to connect to the mining pool. I just find this odd. Like, maybe that's the reason. There could be some long-standing bad blood between Jihan and Luke. That's the only thing I could think of. Or there was just some oversight somewhere. But why would it stop connecting one particular pool? It just seems strange to me. I don't know.
I'm going to post a link to the tweet in the chat. Yeah, so
Does it give any?
Luke is saying that he thinks it's nefarious and says it's not the first time that Antminer and Bitmain have done this. They've hidden stuff in there before, and then only ever released a patch once too many people from the community are making noise that they can't avoid it. Luke has released, I'll quote the tweet, though if someone has an impacted S21 Plus, they can merge this hack into their preferred datum tag to hold them over until Bitmain releases a real fix. So he's got something on his GitHub that you can just merge into your datum tag and use. Beefs like this, Len, die hard, and Luke is a polarizing figure for a number of reasons. Ocean is a pool that people like and don't like for a number of reasons. And Bitmain is not an honest actor. They've proven this over the last 5, 6, 7 years. Luke is correct that there's been other issues with their firmware and hardware in the past, intentional or unintentional. And like I said before, not fixed until too many people are talking about it, that it's too difficult to ignore. So the plight of the home miner is one of, I'm never going to get a block. I'm never going to hit a whatever. But, you never have to really worry about stuff like this with a BitAxe. Like AxeOS is never going to give you this issue. You run brains on your BitAxe or whatever if you want, and it'll be fine. You're never going to have this problem. But if you run one of these larger scaled miners with this hardcore, with the hardcore hardware, you're at the mercy of these guys who are making it, and these guys who are making it have an axe to grind with each other. And like, Len, this is going to get better or worse as the price goes up and as hash rate goes up, and as it's going to get more competitive. It's going to be more reason to do this, more reason not to fix the bugs, more reason to be exclusive. This is not going to improve anytime soon.
Well, we don't have much competition right now. It's Bitmain provides the majority of equipment out there. I know there's What's Miner too and stuff like that, but
yeah,
really it's Bitmain is the big driver here, and everybody else is fighting.
But Bitmain is not. It's not on the hardware side. They're keeping their tech off that pool, right?
I'm trying to get to the point that if you have concerns about just the software that's connecting to the pool, something like the BitAxe, they're poaching hardware from these S19s and S21s because there is no chips that is made in-house here. They're physically taking the chips out and plugging it in and creating a BitAxe for that. We are heavily reliant on Bitmain to provide the chips for us to mine Bitcoin.
Yes.
That is very concerning in the long run. Remember one time we had Intel talking about potentially getting into the mining game, and then they stopped that.
Square,
and also Square,
Block,
yes. So there were some talks. How much research and development is required to make a dent in this? And then even once you get there, is it worthwhile? Because you're not selling to a huge amount of customers. You're selling to mainly large-scale Bitcoin miners. They're going to be the bread and butter that's going to provide you the most bang for the buck for your revenue.
Yeah.
How many of them are there? Right? It's not like it's a car where everybody's driving a car. There's not too many. Like, granted, they need tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of machines, but still, that's the biggest problem I see. Like, there's no fucking alternatives out there. And what can we do? Do we talk to a chip maker out there? Let's get this done. If so, how? Like, how do we get them to get on board?
It's a big ask.
We're stuck.
Yeah, for now.
That's the
Anyway.
reality. We're
For
just
now.
stuck until something changes, and it seems like nothing is going to change.
Can't Howard Lutnick force someone to come on shore and make an American miner like Boomer's saying in the chat? Can we not do that? Howard, get it going, Howard. Come on.
So he's saying that Block is still at it. I had no.
Yeah,
I
so
thought
yeah,
they
so is
banned it.
CBP. CBP also still at it. We're also
No, no,
building our
no,
own
no.
silicon to mine Bitcoin.
I'm gonna let's give Block credit. At least they have the facilities. They have the manpower. They got everything required to start doing this. We don't. So if they're doing it, if they're still doing it, wonderful. I look forward to seeing something released. And yeah, Bob Burnett's been working on it, but with Samsung. Samsung getting in this game would be fucking, anybody else would be fucking incredible. But Samsung is still a foreign owned company.
Yes.
Right? Like ideally, it'd be nice to have a US firm do this and also have, this is a huge fucking bridge to cross, but also have it all the manufacturing done within the United States. Possible? Probably not. But right, like given the cost and everything involved.
Yeah, totally.
But hey, we could ask for it, right? Like whatever. Let's talk about the Blockstream Jade, because I don't know if this is FUD or not, but
we've been ripping this wallet, so I doubt it. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, probably, it's hard to say. Like, I'll tell you what I see here, what people are saying, and you can make your own determination. Somebody named Protos on X was sounding the alarm about a critical vulnerability within a Chinese chip. This is the ESP32 chip, and this is used in some hardware devices out there. And one specifically is the Blockstream Jade, the OG Jade wallets. And Blockstream came out to say that the bug itself was an interface bug, and it's not active on the Blockstream version 1 wallet. This is also including the DIY builds for people that are doing it at home. And this does not exist at all in the Jade Plus hardware, which is the newer one that's selling for a little bit more money than the original Jade. A guy by the name of Mahavir Jain, he wrote an article to, quote, clear the air with respect to this chip. And the ESP32 chip controller, it's a Bluetooth controller, and the whole bug itself, there is a potential backdoor here. And so undocumented commands could be used by a malicious actor to devices running Bluetooth on the ESP32. So these commands are the ones that are providing people with getting access to the hardware. From what I gather, it's not available. This type of interface is not applicable within the Blockstream Jade version 1. So take that for what you will. Either it's bad, it's good, it is whatever. But I personally, I'm not going to use a Jade. I'm use something else.
That's the end of the story. There's too much smoke with this thing. It doesn't even matter if there's fire at this point. There's a lot of hardware wallets, the cold card, obviously, the Q, the Mark IV, whatever, that are all just, it seems to me, better hardware devices with less controversy, with less worry, with less connectivity, and you're fortunate to have options, and you don't want to be this guy who's experimenting with your stack on a device that seems to be unproven. That's all I'll say. I think this is the lesson to take away from all this.
So Boomer's saying in the chat that Marty and Odell were talking about this and stuff like the block clock may also be affected and potentially bit access as well. And what I would suggest is, if that's the case, and somehow a malicious actor were to gain access and to get access to your network, because a lot of these devices are connecting by Wi-Fi. And if they could somehow figure out the Wi-Fi password to get access to your network, make sure the computers that you're running don't give any resources to any other network computers. If you run like a VPN, for instance, you could block all internet access within your intranet. And so there's lots of different ways you could do this. Learn it, because just in case there is a malicious actor out there that does gain access to one of the devices within your network, and let's be honest, there's a lot of these Internet of Things out there that we plug in. If just one of them is compromised and you have a computer that is providing information and there's not much of a barrier to get in, then whatever's on that computer could potentially be lost to these actors out there. Secondly, not just also providing some barrier from getting into your computer. Try not to have anything that shouldn't have on your computer, right? Like keywords, right?
Yep,
You don't want to have them on there. If you are going to have them on, maybe go through the effort of encrypting it, shit like that. Passwords, like, I don't know.
It's a lot like you're playing with fire.
Yeah.
The more opportunities you give, and the more hardware you don't update, and the more things you choose wrong when it comes to hardware wallets, or you're playing with fire. And as I said before, there's benefits to number go up, of course, but one of the downsides is that the attack, the severity of these attacks and the resources going into planning them and executing them is going to go up too. So, you owe it to yourself to be careful. Offline keys, everything air gapped. It's not that hard. It sounds complicated. It is. The paranoid guide to the MK4 is kind of annoying to follow, but man, you're going to feel good once you finish it. You're going to feel really good once you finish it. It's going to be a big part of your peace of mind for sure.
Another thing too to consider is if you have anything that has like passwords and stuff like that, like a computer, just leave it offline, turn it off, don't have it hooked up. And
totally,
that's another thing. And another last, time lock your Bitcoin, right? Like doing that. There's no $5 wrench attack or whatever it is these days, the price of that wrench that's going to get the access to that Bitcoin because it's fucking time locked.
Yep.
And that's one way you could really provide some security to your Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Okay, Joey, MSTY.
Oh boy.
All right. Well, this is not a Michael Saylor thing. This is some other company doing it, right? You can't fault Michael Saylor or strategy for this because
this is levered long, right?
I'm going to give you this. I don't totally understand this. I'll give you what I gathered here.
Okay.
Okay. And so MSTY, it is the Yield Max. Right away, it sounds bad. Yield Max MSTR Option Income Strategy ETF.
It's the dividend paying ETF. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
And it's trying to generate a monthly income.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't
we all doing that?
But the way you're doing it, at least you're parlaying your services and you're getting paid like that. They're trying to use synthetic covered call strategy, whatever the fuck that is. I'll try to explain what. I had to use AI for this.
Synthetic cover. Okay, so synthetic covered calls.
Thank you.
You may remember we had not Ben Gagnon, but his colleague there, their chief financial officer.
Yeah.
And what Bitfarms engineered in the Bitcoin space is basically the synthetic covered call to secure. There's a way to describe this to shore up their financial picture in the event that Bitcoin has a crash. And the covered call is basically a hedge against the drop in price in Bitcoin. Now, I don't know what the synthetic call strategy is on this, but
it's that they don't hold Bitcoin directly.
Yeah.
Nor do they hold the MSTR stock directly.
Okay.
So it's
so what do they hold? Like they hold nothing. This is nuts. This is like you're asking for trouble with stuff like this. This is like when you look at the ingredient list on just fruit snacks and there's a bunch of stuff you don't recognize, and none of it is fruit and none of it is snacks. That's what this is. So you're looking at the ingredients list. There's no Bitcoin and no MSTR, but it's MSTY and it's a Bitcoin related. Like this is.
It's getting really.
Don't get crazy. Don't get crazy.
Yeah. So like it's selling options, and through that. It's either going to be call options and if they're figuring this out, and that's how they're able to potentially generate income. So that's the synthetic bullshit of all this. It truly is.
I'm out on this. What's the performance look like? There's probably a ton.
Terrible.
Yeah, it's probably
take a look at the last month, 6 months, 3 months, year. It's all fucking down.
Last 6 months, 30%. Year to date, 20%. 1 year, 34%. 5 day. Even the 5 days, only 4%. So like you'd be better off. Presumably you're doing this as like MSTR is levered or like high beta Bitcoin. This is high beta MSTR. Is that the selling point? I don't know. Hard for me. It's hard for me to
I don't want
to
pump MSTR, right? But if you look at its performance in the last 3 months, 6 months, year, it absolutely ripped this to shreds.
Yeah.
The idea that carrot that they're dangling in front of the investor out there, that monthly income, people love to get this fucking thing. They love to get this steady stream of income.
People love income dividend, stuff. They love that kind of shit.
And this is right up their alley.
Why not just the other thing too? I'll say that I'm not, like I said, I'm not familiar with this tool, but the thing about dividend stocks is that dividend stocks don't offer like price growth a lot of the time. So if you get it's like a dividend ETF that pays quarterly or whatever, that you can expect the dividend to keep producing for you, obviously based on the number of shares in that ETF you have and whatever the ETF holds. But you may not expect price appreciation. So there's a trade-off there for one. So maybe it's true that this price appreciation on this thing is actually not what we should expect, and the dividend should be there. But again, the same reason I still have trouble sometimes with like a huge position MSTR. If you're buying MicroStrategy because they hold the underlying, and MicroStrategy is always selling stock to buy the underlying, then why aren't you just buying the underlying? Like why aren't you just, I get that you want to like try and catch a rip, and I've done this too. I still own MSTR. Like I'm not telling you that I've sold it all, but it does, raise some questions. If you want to stay up an extra 15 minutes and think about this in your bed at night, it's pretty easy to do. And obviously Predator is tweeting out receipts steady now about how MSTR wants you to know without any shadow of a doubt that you are not entitled to any of the coin that they think they're entitled to, and that they don't actually hold any Bitcoin themselves. So, it's not something that I would be playing games with in terms of this MSTY thing or any of the derivatives of MSTR. MSTR is volatile enough. You don't need to add more excitement to your life than what you get with Sailor. I think you're fine doing that if that's what you want to do. Good luck, obviously. But yeah, I saw.
They announced they bought more Bitcoin. It was
average price $84K or something like that. I think I saw. Not bad.
Do you think they care?
No,
with the price, they don't give a flying fuck.
They're the same as you and me in that regard, right? They think this thing is ripping. I think it's ripping. You think it's ripping, and they're buying no matter what. So
what they should be doing though is buying this MSTY and reporting on it. That would be an absolute fucking signal for the market that this thing should be ready to rip. I would love to see that.
Mm-hmm.
To see, they purchased a couple $100 million of MSTY. They want to get the steady stream of income so they can use that.
They're looking for the dividend.
Bitcoin.
Yeah, looking for the dividend.
Right? This is one way to buy Bitcoin, right? They're going to use that. That'd be fucking awesome.
I'm buying BMO stock for the dividend, and then I'm using it to buy.
You're right. Like that's one. It's it's the banks. It's like CN Rail, shit like that, right there.
The telcos, I think, give a dividend too.
Yeah. And it's pretty. Like you say, they don't move that much in price. I mean,
where's Simone Bélanger? We got to bring Simone back on. Tell me what dividend stocks, what dividend basket is the best one? Dividend aristocrats to get me a steady Bitcoin stream.
He's a Bitcoiner at heart, though.
I know.
Right? Like that's the thing that.
Yeah.
Such a fiat.
I love it. All
right. Let's see what else we'll talk about. Bhutan. Let's talk about them. It's been a while since we talked about them.
It has been.
And they're making a lot of press on X these days, given what they've been doing, and that is simply mining for Bitcoin with their excess electricity. They've made this decision a few years back, and they, throughout the year, every year, periodically, they have excess electricity, and that's when they use that to point to the Bitcoin mining equipment they have within their country, and that's what they do. And this is really more of an economic story than anything else. It's maybe somewhat related to Bitcoin, but reality, this is an economic story, but it's still interesting to talk about on our show. Al Jazeera, of all places, wrote an article about this on their website, and it's talking about, can Bitcoin save Bhutan's struggling economy? And they're saying that amid a brain drain and economic woes, Bhutan has used cryptocurrency to double the salaries of their civil servants. And they're using hydropower to mine Bitcoin. So if people are talking about the pollution that Bitcoin mining is emitting into the atmosphere, in this case, no. You could talk about the flooding of lands and stuff like that, but really there's no carbon that's being released as a result. And the Prime Minister of Bhutan is saying it's a simple strategic choice that many people have made and earned billions of dollars. And I think governments should do that. And I think governments will be looking at this in the future. And Bhutan has been struggling with their economy in the past few years. tourism was and still is a huge part of their GDP. And there has been tremendous fluctuations for the visitors coming in after COVID. The country typically wants to bring in about 300,000. They could host up around 300,000 people per year. And last year, they got about 150,000 tourists. So, still, even in 2024, a few years after COVID, they're still about half of capacity. Youth unemployment, just like a lot of other places, is sky high, 19% in 2024.
You know what
The
ours is, by
government,
the way? You know what ours is?
25, 24?
Ours is like 15 or 16, I'm pretty sure. So,
Oh, fuck. Okay. I
not far off, just to give you an idea of
overstated
like
it.
the dire situation here compared to our friends overseas.
And they're saying that's a struggling economy, according
Yeah.
to this article. And the government said they sold $100 million worth of Bitcoin, and they're using some of the proceeds to double the salaries of their civil servants. So people like teachers, hospital workers, shit like that, that have potentially been leaving the country, they're now trying to lure them to stay in the country and provide services. And to date, they have over 600 million Bitcoin worth of that they've mined as of April 9th. So again, this is more of an economic story, but other countries are going to look at this. The ones that have excess power, as long as they're able to make more mining Bitcoin than selling it to their neighbors or doing whatever the fuck they do with their excess electricity, it makes sense to look at this as an option. And I know they're doing it in Ethiopia, for instance. So there's going to be a lot more of this moving forward. But I'm not even going to go there.
Boomer in the chat. Why doesn't Bhutan just go elbows up to fix their economy?
I
That's
don't
a
wanna
great question. Does that work? Anyone know? Let's find out.
But the one thing that you could consider, as more and more capital is used to purchase Bitcoin mining equipment, so does the hash rate go up. Right? We reached a record last week. We were talking around 900 exahash per second.
Yep.
So we're going to get to the zettahash. Is that what it's called? Whatever.
I think so. We talked about it. Zeta, something like that. We didn't know.
We're still trying to figure out. It's going to get to that level, right? And once it gets to that level, it's going to be because of stories like this, because there's going to be more countries out there that have access to capital. They're going to direct it towards buying equipment, energize it, and away you go. So I'm not sure if you want to add anything to this story.
No, not really. It's good. I enjoy that the media is covering stuff. I wish they were more creative than Bitcoin is maybe going to fix this third world economy the same way they brought with El Salvador. Like we have to do better than that. I mean, the media should do better than that. Why is it working? How does this stuff benefit over there? Maybe could it benefit here as well? Let's look at there's no curiosity from the press, unfortunately, but that's what we live with every day. So I'm used to it by now. It's neat all the same. Let's leave it at that.
Cash App. That's the company
Cash App.
Is they have a jingle, or are you just making
no?
one
They
up
don't.
on
I made it up.
Okay, so very catchy.
Thank you.
People could buy Bitcoin using Cash App. This is I'm not sure where this fits within Square, but is it a subsidiary of Square or something like, or Block, where the fuck it is? Like,
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
It rolls up.
Square. It's Square. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then Jack Dorsey is the guy that's behind Square, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a connection here. So they're saying with Cash App, there's going to be some fees that they're going to be putting alongside for people that are buying Bitcoin. And the fees are, there's a table that's provided by Cash App. I don't think it's truly reflective of what's the reality of it. So if you're going to buy between $0 and $1 of Bitcoin, 3% fee applied. $1 to $5, 5 to 25% fees apply on top, and it goes from there. So it's as high as 10% for the next groups and so forth, and it goes down to as low as 2% from $100 to $200. But what I'm trying to get at is, I'm not sure why they're doing this. Jack Dorsey has been a huge proponent of Bitcoin. I don't know how many people use Cash App to buy Bitcoin.
A lot.
And it looks like in small dollar amounts, like people were probably buying $1 here, $2 there, 50 cents here.
Yeah.
And if they are doing that moving forward, it really dings them the hardest if they're buying, say, $1 or just a little bit over $1. And that's where it's close to 25% fees. And, when you're talking 25% fees on $1 may not seem like a lot, but if you're doing multiple buys over a long enough period of time, that could really be a huge amount. And really, I'm not sure how the structure works, how people use Cash App to buy Bitcoin, but in my opinion, just looking at this chart, it's in your best interest to buy anything above $100. That's where it's really going to be the cheapest for you. In fact, it really gets cheap when you get past $5,000, but I'm not sure how many people are using Cash App to buy 5K worth of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Or alternatively, maybe find something else out there, maybe River or something else to get you your Bitcoin. Doesn't seem all that good. Like just doing this.
It's not. And the other thing I was trying to think about here, I should have looked this up before we started the show, but it just occurred to me now. You and me have talked in the past. I gotta stop saying talked. We have spoken in the past about the issue with some of these non-custodial peer-to-peer exchanges and how there's, too much of a markup on spot and people don't want to use them because that markup is unpalatable if you look at something like Cash App or ShakePay or whatever, right? And so they'd rather give up their privacy and use one of these other services than pay an extra 5% and use something that's peer-to-peer, even though it, is relatively trustworthy. Let's be honest. There's not too many stories about people getting rugged on Bisq or RoboSats or HODL HODL. How many more fee hikes and minimum hikes can we see from a company like Cash App before people start looking at other options and end up going down this peer-to-peer road? This is the reason I'm asking this. And the reason I think this is interesting is because typically the government has been an enemy of apps like Cash App, right? In terms of buying Bitcoin. And I would say they probably still are at some level. They don't want people buying Bitcoin too much, just a little bit so that they feel like they can have some and be agile and all these things that Bitcoin brings. But if they buy too much, they become a problem for the government. Cash App, as a player in this whole game, has a responsibility to its customers, but also it has a responsibility to the government, right? Government wants these apps and services to be transparent. And if they start pushing people into non-transparent purchasing options, then those fees become an issue for the government. So there's a lot going on here, and it's kind of a half fleshed out thought. But I do think that the higher these fees go, the more likely people start using off the grid services. And then I don't know what happens with some of these apps and with what the government expects in terms of information dumps and transparency reports and all these things, KYC, AML laws. I'm not sure, but you can't raise the fees forever. Eventually people will say like, okay, now it's worth learning about this other service, this third service, right? And they may not be there yet, but they're getting closer. And this one ruffled a lot of feathers. This was on Twitter quite a bit when it was announced.
Jack Dorsey, of all people.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's
running a business, man. If the business is not doing that well and they decide they want some more money or it's, greater cost than they originally thought, like it's obviously his prerogative. I just wonder, but like I said earlier, I wonder about the stuff I mentioned there, but also, why raise the fee on Bitcoin? Are you tapped on the other options that you have? I don't know. Well, I guess there's only one way to find out, right? We'll just have to wait and see.
That's it, Joey. That's it for the Bitcoin stuff. Almost an hour in. Let's move on to the rest.
Yeah. Stay here if you're on audio, or if you're on video, I should say, and watching live. If you're on audio, come back tomorrow for the second half. I guess everyone's on video now that we're posting video and not audio, but you get the picture. If you're here already, just hang out. If you're not here live, then tomorrow you get more. Till then, take care of yourselves.
Don't be a cock.